And you can see me, hopefully. All right. Good morning, everyone. Quite a few people still joining us this morning. My name is Scott Hamilton, CEO of Executive Next Practice Institute, the host of the meeting today. Look forward to having you all on board, people coming in from all over the world. So again, we're giving folks just a couple of minutes here to join us in this kind of unique format, leveraging a Zoom meeting versus a webinar. Jason, and I know you are onboarding people as I'm talking, so I'm just going to get right into this and share with the audience where we're headed this morning. First of all, as I mentioned, Executive Next Practice Institute is based at the University of California, Beal Applied Innovation. This is our 422nd such forum and workshop that we've hosted across the globe. We've been around for 12 years now, and our global audience is north of 90,000 decision makers. And it's a very unique organization in that it is represented across the board by C-suite leaders, CEOs, CMOs, top practitioners from all industry sectors. You see there a picture of back in the old days of March 2020, when we could meet in person, and our forums of 100 to 1,000 people to examine what we call next practices. So we're glad you're able to come join us today, along with our terrific two other event partners this morning, CXPA and OC product managers. Both of these organizations have been great partners with us over the years. We look forward to many more events with them, and we really thank both the Gregs for their help in orchestrating the event this morning. We also want to thank our partner organizations across the innovation ecosystem, including our local Chamber of Commerce, Fragaman, both the UCI Beal system organizations, Tech Coast Angels, many of these others that help us put on these events. We also certainly want to thank our sponsors. Greg is going to talk a little bit about Pendo and Pragmatic, but I want to thank McKinsey again for coming in several times now on these CX summits. Telecomprehensive Solutions led by Brian Anderson, just a great partner and one of our E&P advisors, and bringing in Speak App and Granite Channels. And of course, our long-term partner, Jason Duncan, CEO of Miller Farm Media, who is also our media director and handling the show today behind the scenes. Please, at the conclusion of this event, contact these people, look them up. They've got some very interesting information and content to share with you. We will be sharing the slides upon their approval with you post-event. And you've got their bios and contact information that we sent in advance of this meeting. Again, thank you so much for these sponsors for really taking the time out to support this event. So we've got a terrific panel. I just want to point one thing out with these speakers that you see listed here. Any one of these people, any single one of them could carry this entire meeting easily. But we've asked them to do the impossible and share with you the best of their insights in clips of no more than 8 minutes. So those of you who do speaking for a living or part-time know how difficult that is to get your message down to a soundbite like that. So again, any one of these people have a wealth of knowledge to share with you. Again, reach out to them post-event. You've got their contact, you've got their LinkedIn. But again, thank you all for sharing. By the way, if you're just joining us, be sure to mute yourself, both audio and video. So here's our sequence today. We're going to run through, again, a very fast-paced but deep dive on the state of CX, customer centricity. And we're covering a real 360 of the topic. So I know you're going to enjoy what they've got to say here. So again, for now, mute your video and audio until you're called on. We will use the chat feature with your questions or the Q&A feature, just like you would in any other Zoom meeting. We'll get to all your questions by the end. When we're ready to talk with the general audience, we will have everybody come on at once, and we'll ask you to raise your hand to speak or send us a chat if you'd like to you have a question for us. So let's get into it. Today's audience, several hundred, both via the Zoom that you see, but also we're broadcasting this through other channels like YouTube. So it's ultimately going to be several hundred, if not over 1,000 people attending today. The people on this, again, are the E&P and CXPA and OC product managers audience. And again, as we've mentioned before, the EMP audience is leaders across all verticals and across all functions, because we believe your best ideas are to come from not just within your own circle of people, your own functional area, but from across the spectrum of enterprise companies. We've also got innovation ecosystem principles here this morning and other thought leaders and influencers. We have people from UK, Mexico, Canada, Latin America. So again, a truly global audience today. All right, let me keep moving here. The value proposition we found over the years, I'm going to go run through this quickly with these executive next practice forums, is this. It is not a networking group. That is not our purpose. It is about building a network, however, and authentic relationships across the spectrum with both your functional counterparts as well as others within companies. So you're going to hear from startups today as well as large enterprise market leaders. You'll meet people from across the global innovation ecosystem at all these events and develop what we call next practices. That is what is unique to your organization that will take you past the status quo. Again, you see a picture there of the old days when we did live events. We hope to soon get back to that in 2022. So let me just start us off this way. Customer Centricity 2021. See if this sounds familiar to you. Take you back last March, last April. What happened? You started getting emails from companies you did business with that looked like this. And it said, hello, customer. We know you haven't heard from us in months, but we hope you and your family are healthy and safe in these unprecedented times. You got that over and over again, primarily because many of these companies were concerned. They knew they were losing contact with their customers. They felt like they needed to do something. So it came across as very insincere, and there was a lot of pushback on these kind of emails going out. But companies were kind of lost about how to reach back out to customers in that situation. It reminds me of the old cartoon here about the old organization with the boss walking by the worker and saying, keep up the good work, whatever it is, whoever you are. So it came across like that. Secondly, even up to yesterday, I got this from a major automobile manufacturer who sent me a driving experience class confirmation I never signed up for. They had sent that to over 400,000 people, 400,000 people. And this was their message a few hours later. We've all spun out on occasion. We apologize if you received an email regarding a class confirmation in the last 24 hours without signing up for it. The issue is on our end in fixing it. So how many of you have been in that situation? So it's do not push the button, do not push send until you've actually been sure of what you're sending to your customer. So those are some of the more humorous things going on in the past 12 months. But let's really talk about what's going on with CX in general. First of all, the rise of predictive analytics. And the question here is, why use a survey to ask customers about their experience when data about the customer interaction is there at our disposal? And then secondly, these predictive platforms will allow us to link CX to the real value proposition and build business cases for CX improvement, for customer centricity improvement. So predictive analytics on the rise. The other thing is this idea of emphatic, not empathetic, emphatic user design. And that is design that's based on observation of what the customer or client wants, because often they don't know what they want. Steve Jobs was famous at Apple for saying the customer doesn't always know what they want. We have to observe them, predict where they're going with those behaviors. So it's this observation versus just market research that's really taking things forward in terms of this user design process, whether it be a product or service. By the way, there's a great article on empathetic versus emphatic design in the link. And again, you'll get that post-event. You'll find it interesting. All right, here's the spoiler alert. What's needed now across all customer centricity teams. And we're doing this now with companies. Our division, Network Strategy, is working closely with teams in just this way. They're pulling together not their marketing or sales teams, but marketing, sales, and their leadership teams to re-examine the holistic look of the customer journey, customer experiences in strategy sessions. So they're doing this both in person and via these kind of meetings. So that's critical at this point. You pull your team together and find out where you want to go from here. All right, let's get to our really stellar panel here. And I'm going to start us off with Greg Malia to talk about from a CXPA perspective, what their organization is doing. And Jason, I think we've got a video to kick this off with, and we look forward to hearing from Greg's comments. So Jason, I'll turn that to you.
So what exactly is customer experience? Is it a number? Is it a feeling? Is it customer service? Well, customer experience, or CX, is more like a chain of interconnected perceptions that customers have of an organization across all touchpoints and people. Customer experience can't be reduced to a number or a metric. It's more than a feeling, and it's not the same as customer service. It's the disciplined practice of analyzing and anticipating customer needs in a holistic way, and intentionally designing differentiating experiences that deliver on brand promises. We make promises to our customers through our brand, and organizations that keep their promises to their customers, well, they're thriving. And good CX represents a promise kept. CX practitioners are the skilled professionals who work within their organizations to prioritize and champion customer-centric improvements. And the CXPA is the organization that supports and advances the customer experience discipline through many interconnected CX competencies. So why should this matter for your organization? Well, it means that you're strongest when your CX program is strong, in not just a few, but all of these aspects. To learn more about how CXPA and the value that certified customer experience professionals can bring to your business, visit cxpa.org.
I still get chills every time I watch that video and think about the story of how it came together. And we had a video editor that was working with us who happened to be from a South African background. And when we heard his dubbed voiceover, we thought this is the right international voice to bring forward. Since then, that video's been shared on social media. Is available on YouTube with captions in a number of different languages, and it's a great short introduction. But let's talk a little bit more about customer experience. Customer experience, or CX, seems to be everywhere these days. You know, if you do a search on Google, you'll find 82 million search results for the term customer experience, more than 44,000 hits for CX consultant. Harvard Business Review, Gartner, PwC, all extol customer experience as an essential business strategy. Facebook and Microsoft have recently made acquisitions and investments in customer experience software enhancements. Heck, even NBC offered a customer experience job to the main character on the Superstore television series. And then there's you, this great network of people across the globe that are tuning in. And you're each here at a minimum curious about customer experience, and quite likely because it's important to your company and your future. So what I want you to know today is that customer experience is a growing professional field with consensus-driven guidance to help you achieve better outcomes for your customers, employees, and business. CXPA was founded 10 years ago and is the independent nonprofit organization dedicated to the advancement of the customer experience discipline. We work with our members to develop trusted, independent guidance to help you make the right choices for your CX program, regardless of the software platform or consulting methodology that you use. We issue the Certified Customer Experience Credential, CCXP credential, to professionals who exemplify these competencies. And it's not just us. We recently have been documenting how CX is taught in higher education institutions. And so far, we found that there are courses, certificates, or degrees offered at more than 70 colleges and universities in 23 different countries around the globe. So customer experience is a growing profession grounded in research and standards. And the video that you watched gives you a strong introduction to CXPA's consensus-based definition of CX. There are three key points that I want to stress, and I think you also heard them from Scott's opening comments. Customer experience is cumulative. It's the accumulation of interactions with your organization, not just buying the car or registering for the class, but how you feel when you get that email and how they deal with that email that's a mistake and along the way. Customer experience involves every interaction with the organization, not just the sales and onboarding. Customer experience involves not only technology, but people, technology, and activities. Customer experience is led by a customer experience professional who serves as a catalyst that enhances the organization's results by convening the type of sessions that Scott mentioned that are designed to understand, design, and improve experiences across the entire customer relationship. And customer experience management is the set of practices that the CX professional and organization employ to meet or exceed customers' expectations. So when we think about that, if there's all of this interest in customer experience, why are there still times when customer experience is falling short? Well, we at CXPA believe that for a CX management program to be successful, it has to incorporate 4 key interrelated elements. It has to have, as Scott outlined, a customer culture of customer centricity. And that means that every aspect of the corporate culture, from the top to the bottom of the organization, is focused on the customer. CX needs the support not only of the C-suite and the board, but of every department within the organization. Everyone in the company is deliberate about creating customer happiness. The next second point is the holistic alignment of systems and structures. Customer perceptions are formed as the customer interacts with your organization, and it's formed based on the perception of your organization as a whole. So it's essential that your different departments work smoothly with one another. Good CX helps overcome siloed thinking and improves the entire journey by ensuring that systems work from the customer's perspective. The third element is a clear connection to positive business performance outcomes. CX is only successful when it works for the customer, employees, and organization. If it only works for 1 or 2 of those groups, it may show some short-term promise, but it will not be sustainable. We must identify how a business benefits from focusing its energy on happy, profitable interactions with the customer. True CX is a sustainable win-win business strategy. The fourth element is the evolution of business practice through a focus on customer needs and engagement. Great CX begins with design based on the understanding of customer needs, but the iterative nature of CX means that business practices must regularly be updated in response to evolving customer needs and feedback. And this has never been more true than in the past year. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated several trends and shuffled a few priorities. Scott and I didn't collaborate on our key points, but you can see the truth in them, in that the key points that I would note align very nicely with Scott's as well. An increased focus on serving customers digitally, an acceleration of advanced analytics to advance customer experience management. There certainly in the last year has been a separation in business results between companies that have a strong CX capacity and those that do not. Of course, there's an increased focus on safety, which is especially key in this coming year, but has always been a core element of trust between your organization and your customers. Finally, there's a rise in the importance of communicating brand values, but doing that with authenticity and empathy. And accuracy, I think I'd add to that, Scott, since you had that. Humor is not a bad thing if you can work it in as well. So CX has the promise of absolutely fantastic results. Deloitte research reports that customer-centric companies are 60% more, 60% more profitable than companies that don't focus on customers. And numerous other studies document CX benefits, including the value of customer loyalty, customer referrals, employee productivity, and customer lifetime value. But CX is also hard work. Fortunately, you're not alone. In addition to your fellow attendees today, our speakers provide fantastic insight into the best practices and the next practices in these areas that are driving and accelerating the adoption of CX and the success of companies that are CX focused. I hope that my comments further spark your interest in customer experience. And if so, take a look at whatiscx.com and learn more about it and CXPA. But I hope it most of all provides a framework for your participation today. I look forward to continuing this conversation throughout this and to helping you get answers to your questions. Scott, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Jason, thank you for making sure that the video worked, and to your entire team at ENP, thank you. It's a great pleasure to partner with you. You guys are fantastic, and I'll throw the program back to you, Scott.
Great, thanks so much. Again, it's a great to have partnership with CXPA. Again, it's a long-term partnership, and we look forward to many more years with you. Again, to Greg's point, be sure to connect with CXPA. It's a terrific membership value, and join your like-minded professionals across the globe in their research. Again, Greg, thanks so much for that. And we'll hear from you again. Stick around. I'm sure we'll have many questions here toward the end. Let's move to the other Greg White, who's the founder of OC Product Managers and our other partner on this event. Again, a terrific local Orange County, Southern California partner with us. Greg will do a quick intro and introduce our speakers from Pendo and Pragmatic Institute. Greg, I'll turn it to you. Greg White.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Hey, Greg, I'm going to have to get a video like that. Jason, we'll talk about it later. Get some help from Miller Farm Media and make a nice commercial. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg White. I'm the founder of Orange County Product Managers. And since 2009, I've been connecting product management and product marketing professionals in Orange County with over 100 networking events and workshops. And we've also hosted 6 Product Camp SoCal unconference events. And this is actually our second opportunity to partner up with Scott and Executive Next Practices. And we look forward to having many, many more. I encourage you all to visit ocproductmanagers.org to learn more about our organization and to check out some of the events that we have coming up. And also join our Orange County Product Managers group on LinkedIn and connect with our community. Today, I'm happy to share 2 of our partner leadership, thought leadership organizations with you. Pragmatic Institute, formerly Pragmatic Marketing, so you may be familiar with that name. They recently rebranded to Pragmatic Institute, and Pendo. We've worked with both of these companies for a number of years, and that the information that they have to share is always insightful. Matt Neisinger joins us from Pendo. Pendo provides analytics and guidance platform designed to help companies understand and influence how customers interact with their software applications. Following Matt, we'll hear from Ben Newcomb. He is with Pragmatic Institute, and they are a company that educates companies and product professionals to be more successful through market-driven practices. I'm going to keep it short and try to get us back on schedule. With that, I will pass the virtual mic over to Matt Neisinger of Pendo.
Welcome, Matt.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Greg. Good to meet everyone. I'm going to jump right in and start sharing my screen. Just give me 1 second here as I get this popped up. Oh, hold on. Let's get myself in speaker mode. There we go. Pleasure to be here. I'm here to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is operationalizing customer experience. I've got a background as a web developer, but I've been working in the CS space since before it was CS, back when it used to be called client services and account management, fun things like that. But specifically, I really want to talk about how we leverage your existing people and your tech stack to do this, right? And I want to show some real simple ways that you can integrate these ideas into your operating model today. I want to just jump right in and firstly just talk about things that we know to be true, right? As we're heading towards this kind of post-COVID rebound and recovery. Customer expectations are certainly changing, right? We know customers are increasingly engaging with your businesses online, sometimes exclusively. And of course, we know that scaling is critical. This has always been a need, but really now more than ever. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It looks like my screen sharing was paused, but we're back on track here, only on slide 2. these things right here have always been truths, right? And in terms of how we approach our customers, but I think we can start to hone in on things like reliability and personalization, things that Scott teed up as new trends in CX that we're now more enabled and empowered to leverage really going forward. In terms of our customer-facing folks, right? It's more important than ever that we're looking for ways to make their customer interactions of the highest value, right? Doing more with less. One important element here is getting rid of the low value interactions, right? Things that are getting in the way, making sure that our people have the time to have these high value interactions. We know that tech touch programs and automation and other systems and tech that we have are a big part of this. But it's a little intimidating sometimes, right, on how to leverage it. One simple approach that I'm really going to focus on here is let's aim to have our technology increase the number of high value interactions that our customer facing folks are having, right? And I'd argue that it's not about moving from reactive to proactive. We hear that quite a bit. It's really the nature of the interactions themselves, right? Nothing is wrong with reactive, right? Customers email me all the time and I respond. That's reactive. But I want those interactions to be of really high value. So let's look at like how we can do that, regardless of what tools you have in your tech stack. Starting with the customer journey, hopefully you all have done some form of journey mapping or just understanding all the touch points that you have with your customer. And you likely have looked at all of these, right? And you likely know them very well and who's involved. One way to simplify this process is to identify what I call the moments of truth, right? These might be, let's say, the top 5 interactions you have where you can leave a lasting positive or negative impression on the customer. These might be, in our space, it's a kickoff call, QBR, renewal conversation. Next, what are those necessary supporting interactions that lead to those moments of truth, right? Maybe a stakeholder meeting, a key training that's delivered. I call those key touches. It's this last area that is concerning to me, right? It's the everything else that's going on. Be very suspicious of these items, right? These could very well be low value interactions. I work with a lot of our CSMs at Pendo, and these are the types of things when I hear them going on that I'm like, are you sure that you should be doing this? Are there better ways for us to do this, right? Just reaching out to a customer to just touch base. Is that really a value-added interaction? Perhaps, but let's have a look at it. I would argue that a lot of these things our folks are answering every day to different customers, maybe the same day in the same team, just unbeknownst to each other. These are the things that we can really uncover areas of low value interactions that we can solve in a better way. A great place also to uncover these is your support metrics, right? These are usually indicators of the same types of questions that other folks in your organization are receiving that we're answering, right, in mass, sometimes very redundantly. So the best way to dig into this is just start to identify the content that your team is responding with and sharing, right? How are we addressing these common problem areas? This content, it's all over the organization, right? I'm sure many of you have tried to get your arms around this issue. Great content is everywhere. And the longer you've been in business, the more valuable artifacts you probably have hidden and tucked away, right? Tucked away in people's inboxes as saved templates and all the various tooling that we all have that we continue to just add on to. If you really want to go deeper, also catalog this content. Start understanding, is it long form or short form? Is it educational? Is it inspirational? Right? That's a really great way to start centralizing that content process. Delivery, right? Getting the content out there. This is probably the most important step of all of any kind of tech touch program or really automation. Who is this content going to, right? What customer segment or persona? When are you delivering it, of course? And in what form, right? Long form, short form, in the app, in the inbox. The combination of these things, this is what determines the success of your program. So you got a lot of options out there in terms of your tech stack. The important thing is really just not treating this like a one-off project. This is a strategy. This is multi-channel, integrated into your business. It needs to be maintained. So personalizing could be as simple as just collecting roles from your customers and their simple goals, right? A lot of in-app surveys or other various types of surveys can do this. This allows you to do targeting. You pipe this into your CRM. Everyone in the organization can benefit from it. Timing, right? This right here, this example is actually showing a box plot of the average time it takes our customers to achieve these core events in our app. So now I know that if it's taking you 4 days to do this, on day 2, I can surface a guide or a video to educate you on that, right? It's about getting in front of the customer before they know it, right? Scott mentioned this, right? This empathic design, right? We know before they know, right? So let's get in front of it. Conversely, when they're on the far end of that timeline, we can be more aggressive in our intervention. The medium, this is critical as well, right? Understand, are you disrupting your customer's workflow? Can this better land in the inbox? Is it going to take 30 minutes to read? You know, really customizing the content and the actual place it's landing based on what the problem is that they're trying to solve. The last piece I want to talk about is really the people, right? Who does all this stuff? You probably have a lot of these skills in your organization, but maybe not where you need them. Seems like a lot of departments these days are opening up ops roles, right? Sales ops, and prod ops, CS ops. A lot of departments sometimes also have their own analysts and data scientists. The reason why is that sharing a point of view with your subject matter experts is critical to enabling teams with these technologies, right? The people designing these programs, they can be much more efficient and effective when they're embedded in those teams. And I would argue that these people already exist sometimes on your team. So consider promoting folks, right, into these more ops-minded roles, right? They can live in a lot of your existing customer-facing roles today. Lastly, you know, how might you measure this in real simple ways? How are your customers engaging with this content you're putting out there? Is your support ticket volume coming down? And are you having more high-value interactions? So here's this quick summary slide. I know there's a lot of content, like Scott mentioned, tough to put all this into one deck, but hope you enjoyed it and appreciate your time and attention.
Matt, thanks a lot. That was terrific. And I've already got a lot of questions for you, so stick around. We'll look forward to having some conversation about it. Thanks again. It was terrific. Ben, let's go to you and get the pragmatic view. If you can join us, please. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Scott. I'll get this up and running as well. All right, here we are. Pragmatic. So market-driven CX, that's where we start at. We start with the product and where does that go with? So I'm going to start in with different products as well as different company stages as we get into there. So failure rates is something we focus very heavily on. And so 75% of venture-backed firms in the US don't return that same capital. 96% of all innovations fail to return their cost of capital. 92% of startups fail within the first 3 years. 95% plus of new products launched by established companies are going to fail each year too. The point of this, failure rates are very high, and it's not just for startups. There's a lot of reasons that products fail, and that's what we'll get into here very shortly. And what is the number reason for that? The number one reason for why products fail is there's a lack of need in the market for that product. In other words, they fail because they make products that no one wants. What does that mean? We'll look at two different examples here as we go through this. So the first one that is up is a $120 million backed product. So had no short of funding, but there's some issues that we'll cover here. It's a smart juicer. It's a Wi-Fi enabled smart juicer. It has tons of pressure that can squeeze these juice packets, and it pushes it out and squeezes that out. The problem is you could do that by hand, so that can be done. They also think the only Wi-Fi actually covered was expiration date, which you could easily see too, because it was printed right on the label. Yeah, $700 for this product. So $700 Wi-Fi enabled juicer was trying to solve a problem that didn't exist. The issue with that is that it was an outside thinking. So people within the company were looking to solve that as an issue. They weren't looking to see where the market thought it to be a problem. And that's where everything fell down to. Oops, sorry. I thought a presenter view. My apologies for that. Yeah, we'll get going as is. The next problem that we do find, though, is a company called Monge. And this company right here is going to be one that is held by a banana company. And what Monge does is they're an outside in company. The problem is that there's bananas and everyone goes to the store, you buy these bananas, and what do you find is that they're all ripe along the same level. The issue with that is some are ready to go now, some are a little overly ripe. And then from that point, what do you see is you're getting something that's very far green. Monge came up with a great example that shows through to where it gives you a slide of 6 different bananas. They're in equal ripening stages. The beautiful part too with this is that what it does is they're actually edible banana and banana peels. There's no pesticides on this.
Hey, Ben, it's Greg. You're not sharing your presentation right now.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Presenter mode's better than nothing.
And I can screen share if you want to keep going.
Let me see if I can get this right. Is that working now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
great.
So Monge, great example here. Bananas, as you see, there's quite a different ripening stages of this. So they solved that with the packaging, very easily recyclable as well. So they found an inside out. They went outside, found problems in the market. Most people thought this was just an issue that never needed to be solved. There was no problem that there was no solution to this. Well, they found that, and you can see the different stages in there. So this was hailed as genius and really took off in the Asian markets. This is an outside in approach, and they did this because they were really working through getting detail from what the market was asking for, and they did a lot of research. There's 4 P's in the typical product. So product, price, promotion, place. Everyone's very familiar with those. We're saying there's a missing P, which is the product. So these are the 4 marketing, the marketing mix. But when you start with problem, this is where we find a lot of really good interest in, is this product going to work, or is it going to fail? So market segmentation, very normal. Let's look at customers. Let's look at evaluators, people that are looking to buy. But who also are the potentials for this? And this is a segment of the market where we do tell you that you're going to find a lot of very good research and a lot in there. Next on, one of the areas that we go heavy into is called Mojito. It's called Nothing Important Happens in the Office. Obviously, over the last year, there's been a lot of change and evaluation on that. So nothing important happens inside the organization. What we mean by that is work with the network, work with virtually. Soon, perhaps we'll be able to go back to an in-person perspective, but work virtually on that. Get your own data. We strongly believe in that. Get your insights from the market, your own personal experience. And obviously with the decreased need from face-to-face, there's so many easy and great ways to engage and to see what are those perspectives? What's the pervasiveness? Are people willing to buy? So the answer that most of these questions shouldn't be coming from inside the building. We'll find that a lot of people in product are working very heavily in marketing. A lot of people in marketing are working in other areas too. And a lot of salespeople are also working with the product and marketing teams to make sure we're doing that. And it's definitely working more past the squeaky wheel, but what is that research and what's going on there? So a couple of quick phrases here too. Your business is not a software, hardware, or services company. It's not defined by the deliverables. So the businesses are continuously problem solving for your market. And I'll go to a couple of quick quotes from customers on there. This is what we were able to achieve with them. So overall, we've done thousands of these proofs. We've trained over 200,000 people in 61 countries across 9,000 companies. So this is just 4 examples of that. We've reduced our time to market by greater than 25% with our new outside-in focus. Very, very important on that part. Our customer satisfaction scores improved over 75% because our focus changed to solving market problems. Every conversation now revolves around the market, i.e. the result in a 50% increase in sales. And then one more for you is we were able to execute on our 3-year corporate plan in under 12 months. So very key to increasing revenue and getting out there the product or the feature to the current product upgrade that is going to be there to fix. So each of your buildings, each of your companies and organizations are full of product experts, but we really need to get out there and see what's happening in the market. So again, like Greg had said earlier, recognized globally as the authority on product management, product marketing, also in data science. How are we doing business data-based decisions towards that execution? Deliver expert training and coaching, and we offer the most sought after certifications within product and for data.
Yeah, Matt, thanks again. This was, excuse me, Ben, that was terrific overview. And again, for the audience, there's a lot of questions about some of these slides. I know we're going through these fast, but subject to the approval of each of the presenters, we'll be sending you a scrubbed version of these decks so you can go through them. And again, keep your questions coming. I know you've got a lot of comments and input to what's happening now. So with that, let's go with to Jenny Denon. Jenny has participated in these CX events on multiple occasions with us. We're glad to have she and McKinsey Corporations back. McKinsey is actually a second generation family business that really helps, really a focus on customer growth and expansion. And we're delighted to have Jenny and her team back to share their insights. So Jenny, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to try and share here. So let me know how we're doing right up front. I'm going to switch this. All right, can we see my screen?
You got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I can't see my face, so and or the comments, so just speak up if I'm going here. But thank you so much for having me here. I love these type of events so much. I've already gotten like a full page of notes in here, but this community and what we're doing here, I mean, the fact that everybody is taking the time out today to focus on how we can improve customer experiences in our business is incredible. I will also say, just a shout out for Greg. The very first time that I went to a CXPA event, the annual event, I think it was in Arizona, I got there and I was like, oh my gosh, I found my people. Like, this is incredible. So if you're not involved with the CXPA, 100%. So this topic, customer experience, is something that I am incredibly passionate about. And anyone that knows me personally knows I can talk about it for days. But I was trying to think, why is that? You know, why am I so excited? So I just wanted to share a quick story. So I grew up in a family business, as Scott mentioned, McKinsey Corporation. And one of our very first clients, who's still a client today, is Yamaha Motor Corporation. So we've been running their customer experience and CSI program for over 20 years. And one of my first jobs was actually opening the mail and data entering the surveys that came in. And what I remember still to this day is reading the stories and the comments from the passionate riders about how they were using their products and what they loved most about it. It was so incredible, and it sticks with me today. The golden ticket, always back in the day, was when we opened up the mail and there'd be a picture in there of the customers with their products using it. And I remember that there was a guy, one of them vividly, he had his dog with him on his water vehicle, and he was so excited to share it with us. So we put it up on the board and we shared his story on a regular basis. So that gift, honestly, from back in the day is remembering that there was a human being and a person on the very other end of the surveys that we were sending out. And that, quite honestly, was a gift that has stuck with me for every single job that I've had, and every project, is remembering there's a customer on the other end of it. So I think, what does that mean? I mean, obviously, we are dealing with a lot of changes in the last year, right? The way we're buying, the way we're shopping, the way we're working, what we're driving, how we're engaging with each other. All of these different things is so much that's going on. But I do also want to remind you that we've been through changes before, right? I mean, McKinsey's a 35-year-old company. And to say that there's been a little bit of change in our 35-year-old history in this space would be an understatement. So we've seen challenges before, we've pivoted as an industry, and we can do it again, right? And so how do we face these challenges? And so I would say today that we need to remember. So how are we going to focus the challenges today? It's one step at a time, right? So we sit here and we think, how are we ever going to manage the influx of change that's happening and everything that's coming, right? All the data that's coming out. And all of that, I would say, is one step at a time. Think about that one step. But what I would also encourage us as we're sitting here inside these organizations and we're trying to figure out, right, looking down on my time here, but we're trying to figure out everything. How does this affect us? How does this affect our business? Is to remember that there's somebody else on the other end of everything that we're doing, right? There's other people out there that their lives, the people that we're talking to, their lives have been turned upside down and flipped up on their head. So how can we as businesses help them navigate our business? How can we help them solve their problems? And how do we help them figure out their goals, right? So what are we and how do we put them in the middle of it? So I figure we'll dive into 3 things today. And I love these things when there's panels because everybody else is kind of talking about some of these and we're echoing with each other. But the first thing is embrace reality. Where are we today? Quite honestly, we have to have an honest conversation about where we are today. I've heard a lot of businesses that say, yeah, we've got these problems, but it's because of COVID or it's because of this. Here's the deal. We probably had some problems before. And granted, there's a lot more problems and issues that have come up, but we need to be honest where we are today. And I love how, was it Ben that just mentioned what problems are we solving, right? We need to remember, I mean, from 35 years ago, if I was solving the same problems now that evolved back then, that would be insanity. So I encourage you, if you haven't recently, take a look in the last year or 6 months. Are we still solving the same problems? What are our customers talking about? And then also, what are we measuring, right? What are we going along the journey and how are we measuring these key moments? Because there's so many opportunities with the tools that we just heard about to collect information and measure it. But I will encourage you to remember that as much as I love data as a data company, not to get caught up in just the numbers, right? We need to remember to read the comments. We need to remember, I mean, as a business owner, I still read comments. I still read open-ended text. I still want to get connected to our customers and not forget that they're there. The second piece that I'll talk about really is embrace the feedback. There's so many incredible opportunities to get feedback. What we need to remember is we need to initiate the dialogue. We need to proactively come up with ways to engage with our customers along the way. Really, and I love, I think it was Matt that had those spots that we don't want to have these generic issues, but how do we create these authentic connections with our customers? Really to be able to, and the second part in here is to create these collaboration and co-create with our customers, right? I truly believe they want their voices to be heard. They want to be a part of the process and they want to know that they're, you know, that you care about them and that they can be loyal with you. So what are even small ways that you can co-collaborate and co-create with them? The other thing that I would encourage is remember that we're all customers. You know, I know it sounds like a silly thing, but if you're somebody that's trying to push customer experience and push this out throughout your organization, one, pull out and humanize the data and humanize these people. But something else that we did at McKinsey a couple of years ago is we created the Mactive Scholarship. And as we were trying to get our teammates and our everybody on our team to truly understand what customer experiences was, we actually paid them to go out in the community and have customer experiences. And what that did is it slowed down the process and it made them and helped us take a look at every single step along the journey outside of our world and outside of our clients' world. We took a look at how we were engaging with brands, how they're following up with them and what's going on. And we brought it back and we talked about it. The last piece that I'll talk about, and man, 8 minutes goes fast, but embrace the change. Here's the deal. We are in a crazy, crazy world. Last year was insanity, but it is not going to slow down. We are going to be in a time like this, and it's going to continue. And as we break down silos within our organization, we also have to remember that our products and services do not operate in a vacuum. We need to remember that our customers have an entire world around them. And if we want deeper connections with our customers, we need to see how our product and services fits into their world. So we need to adjust our gaze, adjust the time horizon, and then be focusing on what do we want in the future. This is a different topic that I'm truly passionate about, but what this means really is what do we want our customer experience to be? Now is the time to be able to map out what we want it to be, to get excited and make this be the time, you know, because right now is the time for courage, not for fear. I love that right now we need to lean in and do things differently. Like it feels like we're in this like reset button that now we can 100% focus in, engage the customers. Sometimes I feel like companies are kind of like, we'll wait till we figure this out and then we'll engage with our customers. That is not the way to do it. Engage with them now, bring them into the process, because I truly believe that the customers or the companies that focus on their customers are the ones that are going to come out successful at the end of this. So thank you so much. I know that I just covered a whole lot of information, but really it's about humanizing the customers and getting excited for what we have going on. So thank you, Scott.
Jenny, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us. Always great insights. Again, we look forward to working with your team. Just great having you part of the community. Just always insightful. Annette, let's have you come up again, Annette Franz. Annette is a long-term friend of Executive Next Practice as well. Just had a new book come out, Customer Understanding. We'll do a shameless plug here, Annette, that it's available on Kindle and a terrific read. Just delighted to have you back. Long-term partner with E&P and CXBA locally. So Annette, share with us your thoughts. And I know you cover a lot of this in some of your books as well.
Yep,
Welcome.
yep. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I have been around for a while and have been to past E&P events. And I was just thinking, as Jenny just mentioned, how fast these 8 minutes go. That the first or the last one that I remember that was a crazy 8 minutes. Sorry, I'm doing this while I'm trying to share my screen here. Was a crazy 8 minutes was, and Lauren Ferrer, I know you're in the audience. I think you probably remember this one too. Blockchain in less than 8 minutes. To explain blockchain in less than 8 minutes. That was a crazy one. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Scott, for having me today. And I am going to be talking about customer understanding. And yeah, shameless plug, the book is available on Amazon, both in paperback and Kindle format. What I'm really going to be talking about is how customer understanding is the cornerstone of customer centricity. And I think some of the things that I'll talk about really tie together very nicely everything else that others have spoken about here before me. So we didn't coordinate it that way, but I love when that happens, right? So I always like to start with definitions. So I'll start with the definition of both customer understanding and customer centricity. Customer understanding is really all about seeing, feeling, hearing, experiencing, learning through the eyes of our customers, through their hearts and their minds, right? It's achieved in 3 ways, and I'm going to talk about those 3 ways here in just a few minutes. It builds empathy for the customer. It puts the customer in customer experience. Ultimately, it informs your CX strategy and it drives business growth. But I think the most important thing is that customer understanding really is the cornerstone of customer centricity. And I'll jump into that here real quickly. But first, I wanted to say that customer centricity really has its culture, its foundation in culture, right? It's an organization-wide, enterprise-wide thing. It's not something that one person can do. I've read so many articles recently where people have said, oh, I just sent a customer-centric email, or, oh, you can do this customer-centric thing. That's not what customer centricity is. It is woven through the DNA of the organization. It really is about bringing in the customer's voice into everything you do. The culture is deliberately designed in such a way that you're always doing things in the best interest of your customers with their best interests in mind, right? And I always like to say no discussions, no decisions, no designs without bringing that voice, that customer voice into it, right? Without asking, how is this going to impact the customer? How will it make her feel? What value will it add for her? What problems will it solve for her? I think that's really the root of being customer centric and having a customer centric culture. And that's why customer understanding is so critical to having that customer-centric culture. So there are 3 ways to put the customer and customer experience and at the heart of your business. I'm going to take you through those 3 ways here very quickly. So the 3 ways are listen, characterize, and empathize. So let's start with listen. Listen is really all about asking, listening, and capturing. Asking is all the ways that you ask your customers for feedback, right? Whether that's surveys, interviews, customer advisory boards, panels, however you ask your customers for feedback. Listening is about all the ways that your customers prefer to leave feedback. And that might be through social media, online reviews, through your employees. So VOCE is voice of the customer through your employees, and even through customer advisory boards. They may be providing feedback there that you may not have thought you were going to get. And then finally, capture is all about the breadcrumbs of data that your customers leave behind as they interact and transact with your brand. And when you marry all three of those, all of the feedback and those breadcrumbs together, it really is magical. It's really the greatest way for you to be able to understand your customers, their behaviors, their attitudes, their expectations, and how well you're performing against those expectations as well. So surveys are not dead, but we need both. We need surveys because we need to understand from our customers, how well we're meeting their expectations. We need to understand their behaviors and their attitudes as well. But again, you've got to combine the feedback and the data that they leave behind in order to really have a really nice picture of the customer and the expectations that they have about the experience and how well you're performing against them. The second way is to characterize. Characterize is all about building personas. Personas are, groups of they're personifications of like groups of people who have similar pain points, problems to solve, jobs to be done, right? Personas, a lot of you may have buyer personas in place already. Those are, typically have, demographics, buyer preferences, those kinds of things. Not detailed enough to design an experience from those. You really need to get into the head and the heart of your customers and really understand what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're hearing, what their pain points are, what problems they're trying to solve, what their desired outcomes are, right? So you've really got to actually talk to your customers. I know a lot of folks sit around in a room and say, hey, I think our customer is, or I think this is what our customers do. That's not how we develop personas. You actually have to go out and talk to customers and do the research to develop those personas. The third way is journey mapping. And the third way is, I call this empathize. It is all about journey mapping. It's about walking in your customer's shoes and understanding the experience that they're having today so that you can design and deliver a better experience for tomorrow. Now, I say know the tool, embrace the process. Journey mapping, yes, is a tool, but the journey map cannot just remain a tool, right? If it does, it's just a picture on the wall and it's not the catalyst for change that it's meant to be. Journey mapping really is a process. And I've developed this 6-step process that I'll just run through real quickly, won't go into a lot of detail about it, but I will call out the important things here. So obviously, number 1 is to plan. Fail to plan, plan to fail, right? Number 2 is empathize. That's the current state workshop, the current state journey mapping workshop with customers. From their perspective, in that workshop, they're going to tell you what they're doing, thinking, and feeling as they interact with your brand to complete whatever interaction or task it is that they're trying to complete. Step 3 is all about identifying moments of truth, root cause analysis, setting your plan. The current state map is all about what are those, I will call them tactical or quick fixes and improvements that we can make right now before we dive into a future state redesign and reimagining, which takes a lot more time and effort, right? So that's current state. We also need to, step 4 is introspect. This is really important. This is about looking inwards. And I always say, you can't fix what's happening on the outside for your customers if you don't take a look at what's happening inside and really getting at the root cause. So this is about developing service blueprints, and that's all about people, tools, systems, processes that support and facilitate the experience that the customer is having. Step 5 is ideate, and that's all about ideating what the future experience will look like and creating your future state maps. And then step 6 is all about implementing, prototype, test, fail fast, roll it out, train your employees, let your customers know, set expectations with your customers about what the new experience is going to be like. So real quickly, that's the 6-step process there. All right, so with that, with all 3 of those, obviously the thing that you get is number 1, customer understanding, number 2, a ton of data, right? But data is just data until you do something with it. You have to do something with it. You have to take this data and improve the experience, design and deliver a better experience. And you can even use this data, obviously, to design and deliver new products and new services as well. So ultimately, the outcomes of doing that are, I've listed 3 of them here, but there are probably a lot more. A customer-centric culture, right? Using what you learn in everything that you do, bringing that voice in and putting the customer at the heart of the business. Number 2, stronger relationships, right? You've listened, you're closing the loop, you're showing your customers that you've heard, that you've listened, that you're doing something with it. And ultimately what you're doing as a result is you're finding products for your customers, not customers for your products. And that's a really key distinction that needs to be made there. And then finally, the last outcome is obviously the business needs to see some outcomes as well. And those are typically financial in terms of cost savings and increased revenue and profit. So I think I zipped through that in less than 8 minutes, but I need you to know that you have to take the time to understand your customers, right? Put the customer in customer experience and at the heart of your business. And not only will it benefit your customers, but it'll benefit your employees and then ultimately the business as well. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Scott. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Annette. You kept us right on time, and your information, as always, is just absolutely terrific. I love the roadmap. So again, we will be providing Annette's deck as well. And thank you for being so generous with that. So stick around. We'll have some questions, I'm sure. By the way, to the audience, again, use the chat feature. This is for you. So any comments, questions, insights that you have, please use the chat feature. We'll get to those. Brian, while Jason's checking up on technology, let's go to Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson heads up Telecomprehensive. He's a long-term friend, tremendous partner to Executive Next Practice Forum. He's an E&P advisor. He's heavily involved with the overall Orange County innovation community. And he's come in to do something of a wrap here with us. And thank you also, Brian, for engaging your partners, Speak App and also Granite in this conversation. So Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. And if I can get my video active, that would be great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Brian Anderson. I'm with Telecomprehensive Solutions. We'll just go ahead and start sharing the slide deck. But as you've heard from so many of our great speakers, from Matt with Pendo, making sure that this is a value-added interaction and looking towards your delivery. From Ben talking about how products fail from the lack of need in the marketplace. All these are database decisions. Data science is really coming into this customer experience journey, as Jenny mentioned. With McKinsey, you really need to embrace reality and be honest where you are. Get that feedback and embrace that feedback. Your customers are looking for opportunities to enable you to become empowered to serve them better. So taking advantage of that is so important. And Annette obviously made some great points around the cornerstone of customer centricity and getting into the head and hearts of your customers to get the data to design an experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about that just to kind of bring it all together, from a childhood perspective. Our greatest author is P.D. Eastman. Are you my customer? We don't want to be out in the marketplace trying to evaluate in live time, is this person my customer? We want those data points that are going to already be telling us that they are, but also indicate those triggers for when we can step in and improve the experience that they're having with our organization, with our brand. So we want to talk about that. Again, Scott mentioned Granite is one of our partners in this. Granite is a large telecommunications provider focusing in on contact center areas. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how do you go about enacting this customer experience journey. From a channel perspective, telephony is still one of the most major opportunities and interfaces that you have with your client base. So if you haven't already put together a communication strategy that looks to all of the different channels, social media and email, your survey methodology, so your telephony product, all of that comes in. And within that, are you doing digital media? Are you chatting? Are you doing text messaging? What is your video strategy? All of these components tie in, but your contact center environment should be pulling all of that information to each of your individual customers and letting you know what interactions they've had with your brand and how frequently. The problem is that most organizations have breakdowns in their technology platforms and data gets siloed, preventing you from getting that 360-degree view of your interaction with your clients. So, and your customers. So I always recommend to people, take a look towards your technology. What are those investments? What is that design or that experience that you're looking to design for your customer with the end in mind? And how is your technology currently stepping up to support that? And where is it falling short and preventing you from achieving those types of outcomes. If you haven't taken the time to map out where your data is sitting, how it's tracked in, how it's plugging into your CRM platform or your ERP system, and flowing across the enterprise, not just within your marketing function and not just within sales, but cross-functionally across all departments, who needs that information on that customer? And how visible is it to all stakeholders within the organization and even partners that may be part of your supply chain that you may need to share that information with. So having all those systems integrated and talking together is absolutely essential. And a lot of organizations have some legacy systems that may not necessarily do that type of communication. So the question is, how do we get here? How do we get this information flowing across the entire organization? And the solution is APIs. APIs are a advanced programming interface that allows data to flow seamlessly and create workflows that are automated so that your people can step up to do exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing, which is building your community, building your customers, taking care of everyone that's associated with your brand, while your data system should be automated to support those processes, not to interfere with them. What I see oftentimes in working with customers is they've designed processes that serve their technology more so than their customers. So don't become a slave to your technology. Find ways to open up that communication and let your data move throughout the organization and flow correctly so that your people are supported in their roles and doing the things that people should be doing. The value to this is that B2B digital leaders turn in much stronger financial performance. The revenue growth over time from a period of 2010 to 2015, the new study is just getting ready to come out right now, but we've seen explosive growth, especially throughout the pandemic, for organizations that were able to be nimble and to implement in an agile environment a digital transformation strategy to continue through a cloud-based and remote working environment and deliver on the promise. Another one of our partners is SpeakApp. They do a great job of community engagement, specifically within your organization, which should be tied to your customer success strategy and your customer centricity. If your organization doesn't have communication flowing throughout the entire organization and readily accessible to your team to support your customers, you're not going to be able to do that. So having collaboration tools such as those offered by SpeakApp are absolutely essential. And that's really it in a nutshell. You know, tying it all together, you want to match your business strategy and goals with your technology capabilities so you can increase your customer and employee engagement, maximize your technology spend, and drive a better ROI, while also increasing your ability to capture and apply critical data and intelligence to your operations. So thank you to everybody who's been a participation in the format. Thank you to all of our guests that have showed up here today, as well as the ENP members and the ENP team. Scott, I'll just pass it back to you.
Brian, thanks again. Brian, I always get a headache after your presentations, and it's a good headache because you're forcing us to kind of stretch ourselves and look systemically at the issues. And I really appreciate the way you've deep dived into this and kind of brought it together. And Jason, this is a great segue into your discussion about the VidMap. So Jason, I'm going to turn this on over to you.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. So we want to talk about using video to humanize your brand and your customer. And what would it be like if people felt connection with your brand, even if they'd never met someone face to face? The humanization in the customer experience, from a customer experience standpoint, is, I would say, that the people that are, the businesses that are the most guilty of not having a humanized brand are B2B and anything to do with technology. Typically, we hide behind our technology or in a B2B setting because we're so relationship oriented. It's a salesperson, but that's it. So how do we fix that? So the first thing we need to do is, and this is, I'm so glad that we're all on the same page here. We need to clarify our message. And you've heard this from multiple people today, so it must mean it's important. And then the first step of clarifying your message is know the problem that you solve, or know the problem that your ideal customer has. And make sure you know how to talk about that and offer them the right solution. So now that we know how to clarify our message, we know that the problem that we solve is the key to that. We need to look at how do we align that across everything that we're doing. And traditionally, we talk about omni-channel marketing as TV, social media, radio. But I think omni-channel marketing is used in sales and customer experience as everything that we're doing. So our sales team, our websites, everything. And the more we think of it that way, the greater the success we have of being there when the customer's ready, of going on the journey with them. And I think the best way to do that is with video. And when it comes to video, we need to enhance customer experience, we need to have real people. Now, at the beginning, you saw you saw the video from the CXPA, and that was animation. And the reason why that was important because it was a complex idea. Animation is great for complex ideas, but it doesn't build relationship. And if you want to get the best of both worlds, you combine a real person talking to the camera like I am now with an animation, and that builds a relationship with a face because people connect with faces the way we don't connect with other things. And it helps reinforce that complex idea. EMP has done the same thing. If you go to their website, we've created an explainer video purely animated to help explain the complex idea of next practices. Don't forget about user-generated content, using video for customer feedback, getting customer testimonials. These are all extremely important. What I love about using video for customer feedback is it now humanizes the customer to the organization. I know there's some product managers on this call or in this meeting. You need to be getting out and meeting with people. Well, if you live in California, getting out is not really possible. So getting those videos back, doing those Zoom calls with the customer is of the utmost importance. So how does this all fit into the customer journey? And this is an example of what the customer journey might look like. There's a million different theories and maps, but for the sake of time today, we'll keep this simple and using these 5 steps. And I would say I would add to retention, make that /advocacy, because you need to make them a satisfied customer, but then turn them into really an influencer or someone that sends you referrals. So we take that journey, we put it across the top, and then we look at all different types of videos that we can create that helps them on their journey. So we can be there when they're ready for the next thing, when they need to know more to help guide them. And we take that map and we create a vid map, which is simply taking, you see at the top here, a thought leader video, and then we send it out via email, make sure it's on social media, invite them to something of value. In this case, it's a lead magnet, another video. We retarget them on these other platforms, and then we send them an email to continue to build a relationship with them and to invite them to a meeting. This is, of course, for a B2B type journey. And don't forget about influencers. With the end, and you saw in the news recently, they're calling it the end of third-party ad tracking, which Google and Apple are saying it's because they want to keep you safe and maybe in your data safe, and maybe that's true, but really they want to help increase their market share, right? They want to control the information. So it's important now more than ever that we use influencers. So there is an influencer in your industry, no matter what it is. You can use them to help tell your story, to help reach those customers. You need to be building influencers in your organization. So take your sales team, take those thought leaders that you have, and help them create thought leader videos to stand out, to be the people that are looked to in your industry to help raise your brand, so that you own the audience. So you're not beholden to these other companies to help you reach your audience. So let me ask you a question. We talked about messaging, we talked about aligning, and we talked about building a human connection with video. But that only works if you put it in action. You need to be ever present in the buyer's journey. You need to align your sales and marketing efforts and all these other things here. And the way that's done is by creating some kind of funnel, some kind of journey. And we'd love to talk to you more about that and how we could help you with it. So that's how you boost CX with video.
Yeah, Jason, thank you for that. And if at this point we can have all our speakers rejoin, the Gregs, and Annette, Matt, Ben, Jenny, please rejoin us via your video and audio. Jason, that was a great segue into our Q&A here with the audience. And again, I've been accumulating some questions here from various audiences, not just the Zoom audience, but also our other channels that are coming in. So I'm going to share some of that. So if we can have all our speakers come in, and I'm going to, terrific. And I see our list there. Great to have you all back with us. So here's a question for everyone. You've all talked about this idea of looking outside the office, so to speak. Ben, I think, made a point about that we sometimes get myopic with just looking inside at our own teams rather than the actual client experience. What have you seen as some quick solutions for people to make sure that they are getting a dose of reality about what's going on in the markets and with their customers? I'll open that up to the whole panel.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I think it's very important. One of the key areas is win losses, and I think that's great. We really strive to get in depth. We work with an outside company to go into win losses and not just focus on wins, but really when you go into a loss, you find out so much detail. We had a current customer start doing that. They lost a multi-million-dollar deal to someone that they shouldn't have lost that to, but they found out why and what's going on with that. So I think that's huge. We also heard in some of the latter presentations on as you're working in the whole journey, you know, what are these internal teams hearing? What's going on with there? And you know, some really great examples on making sure that that all of that gets into the system, which is very important too.
I'll piggyback on that. I believe it was Annette that also mentioned VOC, voice of customer. So there's plenty of tools out there, right? Like NPS and surveys for collecting some great quantitative data. I think, you know, creating systems that allow for good interpretation of the qualitative data, like what are your frontline folks hearing, and a way to channel that, as simple as just recurring meetings to make sure that that stuff is getting bubbled up. But I also love, you know, Annette's framing of keeping things customer centric, right, on theme, and like couching all of that feedback in, you know, what it does mean for the customer, and making that like an organizational, cultural way of talking about that feedback.
I think I would add that in addition to the data and analytics, you know, I think sometimes it's also really important, and I think Jason brought up a good point, is to try to make sure that people have an opportunity to actually experience their customers' journey, or to experience the actual activity. Or, you know, Jason, one thing that I saw recently in this year is that people sending out a product together with a video camera so that they could do the unboxing and how they used it. And that data was being shared back with the engineers, so that the engineers could understand what people understood and didn't understand.
No, that's a, go ahead, please.
Well, yeah, unboxing videos are huge, and if you can get people to do it without having to ask, great. But I think sending the camera, I've seen that too. We've actually got a whole new series we're doing on that. It's very exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because again, this whole idea, the touch with the customer, it's estimated that once we get into 2022, 2023, we're still going to have a segment of our client and customer population that's not going to be comfortable in going back out again. It's up to 25% of our client and customer population are still going to be in kind of this pandemic mode. So this idea of, you know, how do you create these touch points? How do you observe the customer behavior when they're not in the same room with you? So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. It's here with us to stay.
Yeah. And Scott, if I may, you know, going back to my point, you know, really enabling yourself and taking this time now to make the investment into your infrastructure and systems so that you're able to start capturing that data and really looking at it, you know, tagging it, you know, identifying where is it residing, you know, who owns it, what platform is it coming from, you know, those are the types of areas that we look at to help unlock that customer experience and start to gauge the metrics and the KPIs around those touch points and those interfaces, and starting to, you know, do things like ranking, you know, ranking your customer sentiment and those types of things. So there we go. There's my video. And so what we want to make sure of when people are going through this process is that, you know, really, as Annette mentioned, that introspection is so important. Unfortunately, most organizations are always just running full steam, trying to correct whatever problem, but taking that pause moment, and this pandemic, I think, has been really valuable for a lot of companies to create that pause that says, okay, what can we do now? We've had to make the shift to remote. We've had to make these different changes. What other changes should we be looking at right now? And let's talk to our customers. Let's talk to our vendors, to our supply chain, to all the stakeholders in the brand, and start designing experiences for each one of them, because they all influence our brand identity. But that introspection is so key to that process.
Yeah, Brian, that's such a great point. We were working with one of the largest accounting firms in the world recently, and they came to the unhappy conclusion early in the pandemic that none of their systems, their customer systems, talked to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So they were on all different platforms, and the integration touch points were becoming painfully obvious to people stuck at home trying to leverage all these customer tools. So I think you're right. This is taking a step back to step forward. That is looking across your entire platform, your systemic platform, and putting it together and making sure you're using the latest in tools and technology that's out there.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
that's a real advantage.
Absolutely. I mean, with any system, right? When there's friction within the system, friction generates heat, and heat from a customer experience perspective turns into frustration and or anger. People in their own jobs hate having to jump around to multiple different systems to be able to get information. Your customers don't want to do that as well. If you're forcing them to have to experience things in a completely siloed environment rather than delivering them everything they need under a single experience hood, you're leaving the cards on the table. So there's definitely opportunities to evaluate what where you are in that process by how much access and transparency you're able to create and deliver.
Yeah, the other question for the panel here that's coming from, I think, one of our UK viewers, they're asking about the role of serendipity. But since we don't have those personalized contact with the customer, where we may hear an idea or see something that's manifesting itself, how do we replicate that? How do we get these random collisions with the customer that are going to produce these great insights to where they're heading or where they're thinking? Well, how are you overcoming that?
So not to take over, and if anybody else wants to jump in, I'd encourage it. One of the things that we do is we like to get cross-functional focus groups put together that include customers, include the suppliers, include employees within the organization, and have them all talk together about what their experience is and look for those areas that we can streamline operations and automate business processes and functions to be able to serve everyone.
Yeah, I'll throw that serendipity question to the other panelists too. What are your thoughts on that? How do you create those random collisions of interactions with the customer that are going to spark something new?
I think Annette was mentioning about customer advisory boards, and and there's some opportunity there. Annette, would you like to share some success stories you've heard?
Yeah, customer advisory boards are, planned. I don't know necessarily serendipitous, but they are. That was the one that was coming to my mind as well. And if we bring our customers together, and we can still do it in the pandemic, right? We can do any workshops that we do in person. We can do them virtually while we're all locked up at home. But I think that's a really important tool to use. When I was with Fidelity Investments, I ran our West Coast client strategy and ran our customer advisory boards out here. And to bring people together, it's really interesting because the largest group that I ran was West Coast tech clients. And you would think that these folks would not want to talk to each other, not share what they were doing, but they were quite open about really understanding what's happening in the marketplace, what's new, what's coming up, what we're working on, and all of that, and happily sharing that because they were all thirsting for information on where things were headed. So yeah, absolutely. Customer advisory boards are a great tool for that. But like I said, any way that we can bring customers together, whether it's it's a journey mapping workshop or it's, focus groups or whatever it is. And the other thing that I would add too is that any way that we can allow customers to provide us feedback, wherever it is, however they want to provide it, even if it's on social media, we've just got to be where customers are as well. I think that's really critical.
And I would add to that it really does come down to your company's mindset. Starbucks several years ago ran, my Starbucks ideas. And if you've ever gotten one of those little green straws in the cap of your to-go cup, that was a customer submitted idea. On the other hand, I saw a major brand and somebody tweeted a great idea that I thought was a great idea to them. And the brand responded, "We're not allowed to take input over social media." And, so you have to think about what are your core values and how are you willing to be on the journey with your customer instead of against your customer.
Yeah, I'd almost flip the idea for a second too, to think that there might be more opportunities now for serendipity than ever before, as folks are engaging more online and starting to get more comfortable with tools. For example, at Pendo, we've got a user community all on Slack. We just rolled up another discussion forum community that spun out of that. Our marketing team is running Clubhouse chats, right? We've got user groups now that are way more attended than they ever were before. And these are all just opportunities for folks to lurk, right? Or actually get in front of the company and share their feedback directly. It's been great.
I'll pile on there too. Ben had mentioned a term that I'm fond of for many years called nihito. Nothing important happens in the office. And if you're looking for serendipitous situations, it is being out there with your customers. Whether you're on site, whether you're online virtual, there's a lot of opportunity for just capturing things. When you get into customers' environments and understand, you can kind of see whatever if you're talking about a product and how your product interacts with their larger environment. I've come up with so many great features and entirely new products. I had a multi-million-dollar product that came out of, somebody else talked about case studies and win-loss analysis. I actually had a multi-million-dollar product come directly out of a win-loss analysis situation. And many features, great user delight, flow features by just seeing how my product interacts with the flow and the job that the user's doing. So, get out of the office, nihito.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we see it in the tech space as well with, a lot of different, platforms. Who are they integrating with, right? What's that ecosystem that they're developing? What's that value add that says we're going to extend the value of the investment that you're making into this platform by allowing it to interface with other things. And I really think that concept of interface is really what's the most important. It doesn't matter whether you're in person or online, as long as you're creating the right interfaces to build the journey that your customers are looking for and deliver that experience and they're satisfied, you're doing the right things.
Yep. Well, let's do, speaking of user experience, we're going to bring this train to a close right now. So what I'd like the audience to do at this point is to come on video wise, unmute yourself video wise, please join us if you feel comfortable doing so. And again, thank you. Welcome UK, Palestine, Mexico, Canada, all of you for participating. Yeah, show us yourselves, please. And to the panel, we've gotten just dozens of comments about the quality of your insights today, this morning. Again, we didn't do you much justice with 8 minutes, but you've got a lot done in 8 minutes each. And so we thank you for the pressure of being so concise and delivering that. For the audience, again, this session was recorded, so it will be posted on the EP YouTube channel and available to you. And again, upon the approval of the speakers, we'll be sending you a version of their decks so you can look at some of these great insights as a post-event. Keep in touch with us. Follow us, all of us, CXBA, Orange County Product Managers, and EP on LinkedIn. Join these organizations. You're going to get tremendous value from different perspectives from all these organizations. Again, speakers, hats off to you. Just phenomenal job today and covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. So we'll do a group wave since this is a legitimate Zoom meeting. And thank you all and hope you have a great week.